Mucuna pruriens, or the velvet bean, is a tropical legume and it can boost dopamine levels. This magic bean has been used for thousands of years in Ayurvedic medicine. Recent studies suggest it can help to reduce the symptoms of Parkinson's disease and infertility in men. It's also been researched for improving depression, sleep, and snake venom poisoning. Mucuna is a tropical legume, also known as the velvet bean. In herbal medicine and Ayurveda, it's been used for thousands of years as a remedy for male infertility, nervous disorders, Parkinson's disease, and as an aphrodisiac. It's sometimes called the magic velvet bean. For the researchers, this magic refers to its potential to improve the brain health. For the users, the magical properties span from its alleged aphrodisiac effects, while others allude to the plant's subjective, simultaneous, relaxant, and stimulative effect. Mucuna is also known as the dopamine bean, since it's a good source of L-dopa of 4 to 7%, from which dopamine is made in the body. The high L-dopa content offers additional benefits to the plant itself. It protects the seeds from insects and pests. Mucuna seeds also are a major source of commercially extracting the pure L-dopa, which is used in the treatment of Parkinson's disease. The National Centre for Complementary and Alternative Medicine states that there's some limited evidence that the mucuna has beneficial effects on some symptoms of Parkinson's disease, like motor function. Recent research uncovered that mucuna might actually boost antioxidants and scavenge the free radicals in the body. Mucuna is originally from southern China and East India, but it's now cultivated throughout the tropics. In the Himalayas and Mauritius, both the green pods and the mature beans from the mucuna are traditionally boiled and eaten. In Guatemala and Mexico, it's roasted and ground to make a coffee substitute. Aside from its L-dopa content, the velvet bean has good nutritional value. Although a legume, it's easily digestible and rich in nutrients like minerals, 25 to 30% protein and essential amino acids, fatty acids like linoleic acid, and starch. It also contains mildly hallucinogenic tryptamines, psychoactive serotonin as 5-hydroxytryptamine, D-chiroinositol, a rare plant component that can help with diabetes and polycystic ovary syndrome, newly discovered antioxidants and potentially neuroprotective substances of still unknown structure. And it's a source of L-dopa minerals, protein, fatty acids, and other bioactive compounds. It also contains some anti-nutrients. Like most legumes, the mucuna contains various anti-nutrients, and it limits its benefits and nutritional quality. It has tannins which bind to protein and reduce their digestion. Trypsin inhibitors, which can reduce the activity of trypsin, which helps to digest proteins and other digestive enzymes. Phytates, which can bind to minerals and block the absorption in the gut. Cyanogenic glycosides, which are plant toxins that form a small amount of cyanide in the body. Lectins, a significant source of food sensitivities, according to some theories. Oligosaccharides, which can cause flatulence, and alkaloids and saponins. The tannins in the mucuna, being polyphenols, aren't just bad, although they can reduce the absorption of proteins and cause digestive problems in sensitive people. They may be beneficial in people without gut problems or autoimmune issues. Although more research is needed, scientists think the tannins from the mucuna can help to fight viruses and other microbes, inflammation and high blood pressure. Also, these anti-nutrients are much lower in standardized extracts than in whole bean. The mucuna beans contain some anti-nutrients like tannins, phytates, and lectins. Limited evidence suggests that mucuna can have beneficial effects on some of the symptoms of Parkinson's disease. However, there is still insufficient evidence to rate its effectiveness and safety. The L-dopa in the mucuna is the main active component, and it can reduce the symptoms of Parkinson's. People with Parkinson's have low dopamine content in the brain due to the impaired conversion of tyrosine to L-dopa. Studies suggest the L-dopa from mucuna can cross the blood-brain barrier, and it can be used to make dopamine, restoring its brain's level of the neurotransmitter. Other antioxidants in the plant can enhance the brain protection. However, others have pointed out that a large portion of the L-DOPA from Mucuna can be broken down before it reaches the brain. To counter this argument, some scientists hypothesize that Mucuna may affect additional pathways in the brain, unlike pure L-DOPA, or that it contains compounds that help to prevent the L-DOPA breakdown. This hypothesis has yet to be confirmed. In a clinical trial on 60 subjects, a powder derived from Mucuna decreased the symptoms of Parkinson's disease better than a standard levodopa treatment after 12 weeks. In another study, the Mucuna was just as effective as the levodopa, but it was absorbed and it reached the peak levels faster. Similarly, a single lower dose of Mucuna worked just as well as the standard drug levodopa in 18 advanced Parkinson's patients, but it caused fewer adverse effects. Higher Mucuna doses were more effective and longer lasting than the standard drugs. These 3 studies suggest that Mucuna pruriens may be a complementary strategy in the management of Parkinson's. However, a 2018 randomized pilot study with 14 Parkinson's patients suggested the Mucuna powder may have more side effects than the levodopa, the typical drug treatment. In the study, the daily intake of Mucuna resulted in half of the patients discontinuing the use due to either gastrointestinal side effects or worsening of motor performance. No one in the medication group discontinued the use. For the patients who tolerated the Mucuna, the clinical response was similar to the levodopa. Dopamine is one of the most important neurotransmitters for sexual behavior and libido in men. Its effects are pretty straightforward. An increase in dopamine levels increases libido, while a decrease in dopamine and similar neurotransmitters, the catecholamines, reduces libido and sexual function. The Mucuna is commonly used as a supplement for male infertility because of its dopamine boosting and antioxidant effects. However, few clinical trials support its use for male infertility. In one study, 60 infertile men had Mucuna at 5 grams per day, and it improved sperm count, motility, and overall quality. In 2 other studies on over 250 infertile men, the Mucuna also increased testosterone levels. Aside from improving the sperm quality, it could also boost antioxidants and balance the other sex and stress hormones, which were linked to infertility in men. Large studies are needed to confirm these findings, and what's more, the effects of Mucuna on fertility in healthy, fertile and subfertile men are unknown. All of the above studies administered the Mucuna only to infertile men. Limited data point to Mucuna's potential to improve the male infertility, but more research is needed. In one trial, Mucuna seed reduced the psychological stress and the cortisol levels in 60 infertile men after 3 months. Researchers believe the plant can help to better manage stress, but this is limited to infertile men and may be linked to its fertility enhancing effects. High follicle stimulating hormone and prolactin levels signal the pituitary gland is not functioning properly, and it can impair the function of the testicles and reduce fertility in men. The Mucuna decreased prolactin and follicle stimulating hormone in 2 clinical trials on over 250 infertile men. The Mucuna properly balances these hormones by boosting the dopamine levels, which reduces the production of prolactin and follicle stimulating hormone. High levels of prolactin may also be a result of low thyroid hormone. Pituitary tumors, psychiatric drugs like antipsychotics, or other causes. Whether the Mucuna can help to reduce slightly increased levels in conditions other than male infertility hasn't been tested. Small studies have suggested that Mucuna can reduce stress and high prolactin linked to infertility in men. In a study of 18 people, a combination of Mucuna with other tropical herbs improved sleep quality by 50% after 4 weeks. Despite various traditional anecdotes about the ability of these herbs to improve sleep quality, this was the first human study to investigate the effects. It's well known that dopamine is important for focus. In one study of 85 children and teenagers with ADHD, A combination of mucuna with vitamins, minerals, and other supplements improved the symptoms in 77% of the cases. Additionally, the protocol and the supplement combination used in the study was envisioned to naturally increase serotonin and dopamine in the brain. The contribution of the mucuna to the observed effect is unknown, but early research is encouraging. Mucuna extracts are traditionally used by Nigerians to prevent snake poisoning. The powder is prescribed by traditional healers as a pre-treatment for the snakebite. The healers claim a person who swallows the intact seed will be protected for 1 full year against the effects of any snakebite. In one study, the rats' hearts had mucuna powder protection from the heart-damaging effect of the cobra venom. In another study, mice who were pre-treated with mucuna extract secreted more antibodies against a viper venom. The mucuna contains a sugar-bound protein, and it's similar to snake venom protein, which stimulates the production of antibodies. Scientists hypothesize that these antibodies may stay in the body for long periods of time and prime the immune system similar to vaccines. They might be able to cross-react with actual snake venom once they come in contact with it, potentially protecting against a serious poisoning. We talk about serotonin and norepinephrine much more often than about dopamine when it comes to depression, but scientists are starting to realize that dopamine usually is associated with motivation and feelings of reward, and it can play an equally important role. It's not so much that low dopamine in general can trigger a low mood, rather its deficiency in specific parts of the brain is what might trigger the symptoms. Low dopamine in the brain's emotional, the mesolimbic centers, can cause the inability to feel pleasure, which is common in depression. Low dopamine in cognitive, mesocortical areas can trigger a lack of motivation that people with depression often suffer. Scientists suspect that dopamine boosting with Mucuna pruriens can improve the mood and symptoms of depression. It can also reduce the stress levels, showing all the desired characteristics of a good antidepressant. Mucuna is traditionally used to help to fight parasitic infections, but clinical studies are completely lacking to support the use. Folk healers claim that mucuna has a mild anti-parasitic effect. They often use it alongside other parasitic cleanse and treatments. In lambs, the mucuna seed slightly reduced the number of parasites, but it didn't clear the infection. In goats, it improved digestion, but it didn't reduce the parasite infection. In cells, its seed oil could paralyze but not kill parasites. The leaves of the mucuna are probably higher in the potentially antibacterial compounds than the seeds. The leaves were active against some bacterian cells, probably due to their high phenol and tannin content. In mice, a leaf extract from the mucuna reduced seizures. It also reduced a type of muscle rigidity called catalepsy that's linked to seizures, schizophrenia, and Parkinson's. Scientists are exploring whether it has any anti-seizure effects due to the mixed effects of its levodopa, serotonin, and antioxidant components. The Mucuna pruriens contains an inositol called D-chiroinositol, and this can mimic the effects of insulin, and it might help to lower high sugar levels. A high dose of the seeds reduced blood sugar levels in mice. Thanks to its antioxidant potential, the mucuna extract is being researched for protecting skin cells. Scientists are hoping to see creams and gels with the mucuna for skin disease such as psoriasis, dermatitis, and eczema, but many more studies would be needed before this becomes available. The velvet magic bean does contain some tryptamine compounds, which are known psychedelics. Their concentration is probably very low in most available supplements. In some animal studies, the mucuna had mild hallucinogenic and sedative activity. Therefore, it's theoretically possible, but still unproven, that the mucuna bean might have mildly relaxing and psychedelic effects. Animals and clinical studies are needed to confirm this. Some people report dreamy feelings from taking the mucuna, but it's unknown if the mucuna actually has these properties. What its content of tryptamines and other psychoactives is, and what effects are possible until more studies come out. The following side effects were reported in clinical studies: nausea, abdominal discomfort, rare vomiting, and rare insomnia. Serious side effects or changes in blood test values were not reported, but they can't be ruled out. A Mucuna overdose can cause headaches, movement disorders, fatigue, tremors, fainting, and thirst. The long-term safety of Mucuna has not yet been established. Mucuna has a high L-dopa content, and it can raise dopamine levels in the brain and the body. Increasing dopamine levels or using the L-dopa could be dangerous in some people, including those with glaucoma, heart arrhythmias, chronic nerve pain or neuropathy, stomach ulcers, psychosis, or due to the lectin content, the Mucuna may not be suitable for people with certain food sensitivities. The following drug interactions are possible based off the information about the L-dopa. Some antidepressant and anti-Parkinson's drugs, like monoamine oxidase inhibitors. People taking these drugs should avoid the Mucuna pruriens supplement. The use of both may dangerously increase the dopamine levels and cause very high blood pressure. Other medications for depression, like tricyclic antidepressants. Some antipsychotic D2 antagonists can reduce the effects of Mucuna. Two MAO enzymes and corresponding genes exist: MAOA, known as the warrior or warrior gene, and MAOB. Both MAO enzymes break down neurotransmitters of the monoamine structure, including dopamine. People with low MAO enzyme activity may be more sensitive to the effects of Mucuna. This also means low MAO producers may be more likely to experience excessively high dopamine levels with the supplement. For Parkinson's disease, in two studies that show a decrease in the Parkinson's disease symptoms with the Mucuna pruriens supplementation, the doses of 30 grams and 15 grams of a standardized dried extract, 33 milligrams levodopa per gram, were used. Most standardized extracts contain 3 to 5% levodopa. Other studies used lower doses, starting at 5 grams per day. 5 grams of Mucuna pruriens powder daily increased sperm motility, the count and the overall quality. Mucuna extracts may be better as they will have a concentrated constituent with the anti-nutrients removed. For best results, the Mucuna should be cycled, for example, taken for 5 days and taking a 2-day break. It will also be beneficial to stack it with some dopamine precursors, like tyrosine and DL-phenylalanine. For more information about herbs, supplements, and natural treatments, check out my website.